Hello guys. Welcome to Pika Fiction. So in this video, we will see what if Ash became the champion of the Galar region and his prize was a harem of Sonia and Nessa. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The weight of gold. The roar of Winden Stadium wasn't a sound anymore. It was a physical pressure. An atmospheric weight that pressed against the sternum and rattled the teeth. It smelled of ozone, crushed concrete, and the acrid, smoky scent of a Charizard's desperation. Ash Ketchum stood on the shattered remains of the northern pitch. His breathing was heavy, rhythmic, a stark contrast to the chaotic screaming of 80,000 people in the stands. He wiped a smear of soot from his cheek, his eyes locked on the titanic figure looming across the arena. Leon. The unbeatable. The king. Or he had been, until 5 minutes ago. The dust was settling, revealing the final tableau. Leon's Charizard, reverted from its Gigantamax form, lay unconscious amidst a crater of its own making. Standing atop the dragon's heaving flank, small but radiating an almost visible aura of static electricity, was Pikachu. The mouse Pokémon didn't look triumphant. He looked like a soldier who had just survived an artillery barrage. His fur was singed, his tail drooping slightly, but he remained upright. The referee, hovering on his Aegislash platform, finally found his voice. His hand trembled as he raised the flag. Charizard is unable to battle. The winner, and the new champion of Galar, is Ash Ketchum. The noise that followed was deafening. It was a mixture of shock, elation, and the shattering of a national myth. Leon, the man who had never lost, had fallen. Ash didn't raise his fists. He didn't scream at the sky. He simply walked forward, stepping over the jagged fissures in the earth. He reached Pikachu, scooping the exhausted Pokémon onto his shoulder. Pikachu nuzzled into the crook of his neck, letting out a soft, tired chaw. "You did good, buddy," Ash murmured, his voice rough. "Rest now." Leon was already recalling Charizard. The former champion turned, his signature cape fluttering in the wind. For a moment, he looked old. The perpetual smile he wore for the cameras faltered, revealing a deep, profound exhaustion. He walked toward Ash, extending a hand. "You broke the ceiling, Ash," Leon said, his voice amplified by the stadium mics, though he spoke intimately. "Galar has a new monarch." Ash took the hand. His grip was iron. "I didn't come for a crown, Leon. I came for the battle." "In this region," Leon said, his eyes darkening slightly, "you'll find there the same thing." The locker room was a sanctuary of silence. Ash sat on the bench, a towel draped over his head, listening to the muffled thrum of the crowd still filtering through the concrete walls. His team, Dragonite, Gengar, Lucario, Sirfetch'd, Dracovish, were resting in their balls. Only Pikachu sat on the bench beside him, nursing a bottle of berry juice. Ash stared at his hands. They were scarred, faint white lines from the crystal shards of the Ultra Space, a burn from a corrupted Lugia, calluses from years of climbing mountains and gripping reins. He was 18 now, though he felt decades older. He had saved the world from annihilation in Kalos, brokered peace between dimensions in Alola, and stared down gods that defied physics. This win. It felt different. It felt final. The door hissed open. Ash expected Leon, or perhaps his mother, rushing in with tears in her eyes. Instead, 6 men and women in slate-gray suits walked in. They moved with the synchronized fluidity of predators. They wore the insignia of the Galar High Council, the interim government established after Chairman Rose's arrest. The lead figure was a woman with steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun, High Councilor Vane. "Champion Ketchum," she said. It wasn't a greeting, it was a statement of inventory. Ash lowered the towel. "I haven't even showered yet. Can the press wait?" "We aren't the press," Vane said, stopping 3 paces from him, "and there is no time for showers. The coronation is in 20 minutes. But before you step onto that podium, we must enact the transition of power." Ash stood up. He wasn't tall, but he held himself with a density that made him seem larger. "I know the drill. I get a trophy, I wave. I endorse a few sponsors." "That was the way of the sports league," Vane corrected. "That era ended with Rose. The region is fracturing, Mr. Ketchum." The power vacuum Rose left, combined with the energy instability of the darkest day, has left Galar on the brink of civil war. We need absolute stability. One of the aides stepped forward, placing a thick, leather-bound tome on the bench. It looked ancient, the leather cracked and smelling of old iron. The Triad Concord, Vane said. An edict from the medieval era, reinstated by the council this morning. Ash frowned. I'm a trainer, not a lawyer. What are you talking about? To prevent the fracturing of society, Vane recited, her voice cold, power must be consolidated. The three pillars of Galar, strength, knowledge, and culture, must be bound as one. Legally, irrevocably. Ash felt a prickle of danger at the back of his neck, the same feeling he got right before a hyperbeam struck. Get to the point. You represent strength, Vane said. Professor Sonia Magnolia represents knowledge, and Nessa, the leader of Hulbury, has been chosen to represent culture and the voice of the people. Okay, Ash said slowly, so we work together. I know them. That's fine. No, champion, Vane said. She gestured to the book. The Concord is not a job offer. It is a binding union, a political marriage. The silence in the room was absolute. Even Pikachu stopped drinking, his ears twitching. Excuse me. Ash's voice dropped an octave. It is a state arrangement, Vane continued, unfazed. You, Sonia, and Nessa will reside in the champion's estate. You will appear as a unified front. You will rule together. To the public, this ensures that the champion is not a tyrant, but part of a family that represents all of Galar. I'm not marrying anyone, Ash said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He reached for his belt. And I'm done with this conversation. If you refuse, Vane said softly, we will strip you of the title. We will declare the match invalid due to foreign interference. And then we will install a puppet who will follow orders. Galar will burn within 6 months. She looked him in the eye. Leon agreed to this. He was going to announce it if he won. He knew it was the only way to keep the peace. Ash froze. Leon knew. They are waiting in the green room, Vane said, checking her watch. Sonia and Nessa. They have already signed. The green room was lavish, filled with velvet furniture and champagne that no one was drinking. The tension in the air was flammable. Sonia was pacing, her heels clicking rapidly on the marble floor. She looked pale, clutching a tablet to her chest like a shield. Nessa sat on a high-backed sofa, legs crossed, staring out the window at the city skyline. Her expression was terrifying. A frozen lake that concealed jagged rocks. When Ash entered, Sonia jumped. Ash, thank Arceus. Tell me you didn't sign it yet. I haven't signed anything, Ash said, tossing his bag onto a chair. He looked between them. You two agreed to this? Nessa turned her head slowly. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and furious. Agreed. No, I was told that if I didn't comply, Hulbury would lose its funding. My gym would be shuttered. My city would starve. Sonia chewed her lip. They threatened the lab, Ash. They said they'd confiscate all my grandmother's research on the darkest day. They called it national security assets. Ash ran a hand through his hair, messing it up further. This is extortion. It's politics, Nessa spat. She stood up, towering over Sonia, and walked toward Ash. She stopped inches from him, looking down. She was taller than him, elegant and imposing. So, here you are. The boy wondered. You come to my region, beat our strongest hero, and now you're my husband? Is that the prize? I didn't ask for this, Nessa, Ash said calmly, holding her gaze. He didn't flinch. Doesn't matter what you asked for, Nessa said, her voice dripping with venom. You're the champion. You have the power to tell them no, but you won't. Because you want the title. I want to protect people, Ash said. If I walk away, they put a puppet in charge. Vane said Galar would burn. Vane is a viper, Sonia interjected, her voice trembling. But she might be right. The outlying towns are rioting. The macrocosmos loyalists are stirring. Ash looked at the two women. He saw the fear in Sonia's eyes and the cornered animal aggression in Nessa's. He realized suddenly that they were terrified. They were civilians in a war they didn't understand. He, however, had been in wars. He took a breath, and his demeanor shifted. The boyish confusion evaporated, replaced by the cold clarity of a field commander. Okay, Ash said. The authority in his voice surprised them both. We play their game, for now. Excuse me. Nessa bristled. We sign the paper, Ash said. We take the estate. We consolidate our resources. And once we have the reins, we find out who is actually pulling the strings and we take them down. He stepped closer to Nessa, invading her personal space just enough to show he wasn't intimidated. I'm not your husband. I'm your teammate, and I don't lose. Nessa stared at him, searching for a crack in the facade. She didn't find one. She scoffed, turning away. Fine, but stay out of my way, champion. The door opened. Vane stood there. It is time. The balcony of the Rose Tower overlooked the main plaza of Wyndon. It was a dizzying height. Below, a sea of humanity stretched to the horizon. Flags waved. The red and blue of Galar mixed with the new banners of the Triad. Ash stood in the center, the gold-embroidered champion's cape heavy on his shoulders. To his right stood Sonia, looking regal despite her shaking hands. To his left, Nessa stood like a statue of ice, waving mechanically to the crowd. The cheering was hypnotic. Smile, Ash muttered through his teeth. They need to see we're united. I am smiling, Nessa hissed back. It's just a very cold smile. Vane was speaking into the microphone, her voice booming across the city, announcing the dawn of a new golden age, the union of the three pillars. Ash wasn't listening. His instincts were screaming. During his journey through the ultra wormholes, he had developed a sensitivity to shifts in air pressure, to the sudden displacement of mass that preceded an attack. He felt it now. A static charge building up 3 blocks away. Get down, Ash said. What? Sonia blinked. Get down. Ash didn't wait. He grabbed Sonia by the back of her lab coat and shoved her toward the floor. He swept his leg out, hooking Nessa's ankle and bringing her down, throwing his body over both of them. Boom. It wasn't a conventional explosion. It was a silence that shattered the world, followed by a shockwave of purple energy, dragon-type energy. A beam of concentrated destruction tore through the air where their heads had been a second ago. It slammed into the face of the Rose Tower, vaporizing the stone and shattering the glass behind them. The crowd's cheer turned into a collective scream of terror. Ash was up before the debris settled. Pikachu, perimeter. Pikachu leapt from Ash's shoulder, his cheeks sparking, scanning the rooftops. What was that? Sonia screamed, covering her head. Hyper beam, Ash said, scanning the distance. Sniper, 300 yards, northwest rooftop. Another beam charged up in the distance, a purple star expanding in the twilight. Guards. Nessa shouted, looking for the security detail. The guards at the door were gone. Or dead. We're on our own, Ash realized. He tapped the Pokeball at his belt. Dragonite, let's go. In a flash of light, the orange dragon materialized, roaring a challenge. Dragonite, secure the civilians in the plaza. Use Protect to cover the evacuation, Ash ordered. He turned to the women. Nessa, release Dreadnought. Block the door. If anyone comes through that isn't us, bury them. Nessa stared at him, stunned by the sudden shift in dynamic. He wasn't asking, he was commanding. She fumbled for her ball. Dreadnought. Gigant. No, just come out, blockade. The massive turtle Pokemon slammed onto the balcony, hissing. Sonia, Ash said, grabbing her shoulders. Stay behind Dreadnought. Analyze the energy signature. I need to know what Pokemon fired that shot. I don't have my equipment. Use your eyes, Ash shouted, not unkindly, but with urgency. You're the professor now. Think. He turned back to the railing. The second beam fired. Lucario. Ash threw the second ball. The Aura Pokemon materialized in midair, sensing the incoming attack. Aura Sphere. Intercept. Lucario fired a blue orb of pure energy. It collided with the purple beam 50 feet from the balcony. The resulting explosion shook the tower, raining glass down on them. Ash jumped onto the railing. The wind whipped his cape violently. Where are you going? Nessa yelled, her voice cracking. To say hello, Ash said. He leapt. It was a suicide jump, 200 feet up, but as he fell, he whistled. A blur of blue and red shot out from his belt, Dracovish. Fishious Rend. Use the momentum. Ash landed on Dracovish's back as the fossil Pokemon clamped its massive jaws onto the side of the building, slowing their descent with a screech of tearing metal. They slid down the tower, hitting the street with a crater-forming impact. Ash rolled off, Pikachu instantly at his side. The crowd was a stampede. Ash ignored them, sprinting toward the building where the shot had originated. He moved with a speed that defied his age, vaulting over a crashed taxi. He reached the alleyway of the sniper's building. Shadows coalesced. 5 figures dropped from the fire escapes. They were dressed in matte black armor, their faces obscured by metallic visors shaped like crowns. The Iron Crown. They didn't speak. They threw Pokeballs. A Tyranitar, a Metagross, and 3 Bisharps materialized. But they looked wrong. Their eyes were glowing a sickly violet. Shadow Pokemon. Kill him, one of the soldiers said. The voice was mechanically distorted. Pikachu, Iron Tail. Sirfetch'd, clear the lane. Ash didn't stop moving. He slid under a sweeping claw of the Metagross, trusting his Pokemon implicitly. Sirfetch'd appeared, his leek sword glowing, and parried the Bisharp's blade with a clang like a church bell. Pikachu spun, his tail becoming hardened steel, and slammed it into the Tyranitar's knee, buckling the giant beast. Ash wasn't watching the battle, he was watching the soldiers. He needed a prisoner. He lunged at the leader. The soldier drew a combat knife, standard military issue. Ash sidestepped the thrust, grabbed the soldier's wrist, and used the man's momentum to slam him face first into the brick wall. Who sent you? Ash snarled, pinning the man's arm behind his back. The king returns, the soldier wheezed. The false champion bleeds. Before Ash could ask more, the soldier's armor beeped. Self-destruct, Ash realized. He kicked the soldier away and dove behind a dumpster. Everyone, get back. The soldier's armor detonated, not a bomb, but a flashbang of blinding intensity mixed with a smokescreen. When the smoke cleared, the alley was empty. The shadow Pokemon had been recalled. The soldiers were gone. Ash stood up, coughing. He looked up at the Rose Tower. Smoke was billowing from the balcony, but he could see the blue shell of Dreadnought holding the line. They were safe. He looked at his hands. They were trembling, not from fear, but from adrenaline. This wasn't a league challenge, this was an assassination attempt. 2 hours later, the champion's estate. The estate was a fortress located on the outskirts of Wyndon, surrounded by high walls and electrified fences. Inside, however, it was a palace. Ash sat at the head of a long mahogany dining table. He had finally showered, wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans. He looked small in the massive chair. Nessa sat to his left, Sonia to his right. They were both silent. The reality of the last few hours hung over them like a shroud. Vane stood by the fireplace, looking uncharacteristically rattled. The assailants have vanished, Vane said. We're scrubbing the footage. The public cannot know the champion was almost executed on day 1. They weren't just assassins, Ash said quietly. He was feeding Pikachu a ketchup packet. They were trained. And their Pokemon. They were shadow Pokemon. Like the ones from the Ore region, but stronger. Sonia looked up, adjusting her glasses. I saw the energy residue. It wasn't just shadow energy. It had traces of Galar particles. Someone is synthesizing the darkest day energy and infusing it into Pokemon to force aggressive evolution. Who has the tech to do that? Nessa asked, her voice steady now, though her hand gripped her wine glass tightly. Only 2 places, Sonia said. Macrocosmos, or the ancient vaults of the Hammerlock monarchy. The Iron Crown, Ash said. That's what their armor looked like, stylized crowns. Vane stiffened. The Iron Crown is a myth. A radical faction from the Civil War 200 years ago. Well, they're back, Ash said. He stood up, and they think I'm a usurper. He looked at Nessa and Sonia. The hostility from the green room was gone, replaced by a wary, mutual survival instinct. Vane, Ash said. Triple the guard on the lab in Wedgehurst, and send a detail to Hulbury. If they missed me, they might go for leverage. I cannot allocate. Do it, Ash snapped. The air in the room seemed to vibrate. Or I go to the press and tell them you can't protect your own council members. Vane pursed her lips, then nodded once. Very well, she left the room. Silence returned to the dining hall. You saved us, Sonia said softly. She looked at Ash with new eyes. She had known him as the kid who helped with the darkest day, but she had never seen him in war mode. I did my job, Ash said. Nessa swirled her wine. She looked at Ash, analyzing him. You jumped off a building, catch him. I had a ride, Ash shrugged. You're insane, Nessa said. but there was no venom in it. A grudging respect, perhaps. But you were right about the command. If we hadn't blocked that door. We're stuck in this house, Ash said, looking out the window at the darkened grounds. And we're stuck with each other. I don't care about the politics, and I don't care about the marriage contract. But I won't let you guys get hurt. That's a promise. Sonia reached out, tentatively placing her hand on Ash's forearm. We're going to figure this out. The history, the energy. I can solve that part. And I can handle the public, Nessa said, sitting straighter. If they want a united front, I'll give them a performance they won't forget. Ash smiled, a genuine, tired smile, and I'll handle the fighting. He raised his glass of water. To the triad? Sonia smiled weakly and raised her glass. Nessa hesitated, then clinked hers against his. To survival, Nessa corrected. Outside, far beyond the walls of the estate, deep in the sewers beneath Winden, a man in a cloak watched a monitor. The screen showed Ash Ketchum sitting at the table. The man, Lord Valerius, stroked the chin of a Calyrex that floated silently beside him. The Pokemon's eyes were pitch black, devoid of intelligence, a hollow puppet. He survived the first test, Valerius whispered. Good. A king must be worthy of the blade that kills him. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2, Tides of the Wild Area. The morning sun that filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the champion's estate did not bring warmth, it brought scrutiny. The estate, a sprawling modernist fortress of glass and steel perched on the edge of Winden, was designed for privacy, yet the three occupants moved through the kitchen with the stiff, performative caution of actors on a stage. Ash sat at the island counter, nursing a mug of black coffee. He hadn't slept. Every creak of the building settling in the wind had sounded like a footstep. Every shadow cast by the clouds looked like a sniper. Pikachu was asleep on the counter, twitching occasionally, his small paws kneading the granite. Across the room, Nessa was blending a smoothie. The noise was aggressive, a mechanical shriek that filled the silence. She wore fitted athletic gear, her hair tied back, looking every inch the professional model and athlete she was. She hadn't looked at Ash once. Sonia sat at the dining table, surrounded by a fortification of books. She looked haggard. The new Professor Magnolia was rapidly discovering that the title came with mountains of bureaucracy. The blender, Ash said, his voice rasping slightly, is very loud. Nessa didn't turn around. She hit the off button. The silence that rushed back in was worse. Some of us have routines, champion. We can't all sleep in our clothes and eat. She glanced disdainfully at the empty bowls stacked near Ash. Whatever that was. Instant curry, Ash said. And I didn't sleep. Paranoid? Nessa poured the green sludge into a glass. Prepared, Ash corrected. Sonia sighed, rubbing her temples. Can you two please not do this? I have reports from 3 different gym leaders about unauthorized Dynamax energy readings. The council is breathing down my neck about the budget, and I think Yamper ate a historical document. We need to train, Ash said, standing up. He stretched, his joints popping audibly. If the Iron Crown comes back, we need to be better than yesterday. Nessa took a sip of her smoothie, turning to lean against the counter. Her eyes narrowed. I saw you yesterday, Ash. You operate alone. You treat your Pokemon like extensions of your own limbs, which is impressive, but you treat your allies like obstacles. I treated you like civilians, Ash said bluntly, because yesterday, you were. The glass hit the counter with a sharp clack. Nessa's eyes flared. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Civilians, she repeated, the word tasting like ash. I'm a gym leader of the Galar Major League. I have held my rank against challengers for 4 years. I have stared down Dynamaxed Gyarados that could swallow this house. League battles have rules, Ash said, picking up his hat. Referees. Health bars. What happened at the tower? That was war. There's a difference. Show me, Nessa challenged. Ash paused. What? Show me the difference. Nessa walked toward the sliding glass doors that led to the private battle pitch in the backyard. Meet me outside. One-on-one. Unless the war hero is too tired. Sonia groaned, dropping her head onto her book. This is going to end poorly. The estate's battle court was pristine, a regulation-sized field of manicured grass surrounded by high-tech shielding fields. The wind was picking up, carrying the scent of rain, Nessa's element.
Nessa stood at the far end, a dive ball expanding in her hand. Her demeanor had shifted. The celebrity was gone. The predator was present.
Dreadnought! She shouted. Come forth! The bite Pokemon materialized with a heavy thud, roaring a challenge. Its jaw snapped with enough force to shear steel.
Ash stood on the opposite side. He didn't adopt a stance. He stood with his hands in his pockets, Pikachu perched on his shoulder. Who are you using? Nessa called out. Dragonite. Lucario. Pikachu's fine, Ash said. Nessa's jaw tightened. Type advantage. Smart. But predictable. No electric moves, Ash murmured to Pikachu. Pikachu's ears swiveled back. Pika.
Iron Tail and Quick Attack only. We need to work on spacing.
Nessa didn't hear the whisper, but she saw the lack of sparks. Begin. Dreadnought. Razor Shell. Rush him. The turtle Pokemon moved with deceptive speed, its shell glowing with aqueous energy. It lunged, the jagged edge of its shell aiming to sweep Pikachu off the field. Left, Ash said, softly. Pikachu sidestepped. The razor shell missed by an inch, carving a divot into the earth.
Water gun. Wide spray. Nessa commanded. Dreadnought unleashed a torrent of high-pressure water, covering a wide arc. There was nowhere to dodge.
Through it, Ash said. Pikachu didn't jump over the water. He dove into the gaps of the spray, moving low to the ground, using the uneven terrain to break the line of sight. What? Nessa blinked. Dreadnought. Jaw lock. Pikachu broke through the water, soaked but unharmed, right in front of Dreadnought. The turtle snapped its jaws shut.
Pikachu was already gone, standing on Dreadnought's shell.
Iron Tail. Tap, Ash ordered. Pikachu's tail glowed silver. He tapped it gently against the back of Dreadnought's head. Not a strike. A warning. I could have ended it here. Dreadnought froze, confused. Nessa's face flushed with humiliation. She realized what he was doing. He was toying with her. He was treating it like a training exercise for a rookie.
Stop holding back. Nessa screamed. Her composure shattered. Fight me. I am not Sonia. I am not a damsel. Use your damn thunderbolt.
Ash looked at her. He saw the genuine hurt in her pride. She didn't want to be protected. She wanted to be respected. He sighed. Okay. The air pressure changed. Pikachu, Ash said. His voice lost the casual lilt. It became the voice that had commanded gods. Volt tackle. Mach 5. Pikachu vanished. There was no blur. Just a golden streak of light and a sonic boom that shattered the windows of the greenhouse nearby. Nessa didn't even have time to open her mouth to give a command. Pikachu slammed into Dreadnought's chest. The impact lifted the 300-pound turtle off the ground and sent it skipping across the field like a stone over water. Dreadnought hit the energy barrier at the back of the field, slid down, and lay still. Swirls of eyes.
Pikachu landed back at Ash's feet, electricity crackling off his cheeks in angry arcs.
The silence was absolute. Nessa stared at her unconscious ace. The gap wasn't just wide, it was an abyss. She had trained for sport. Ash had trained for survival.
Ash walked over to her, offering a potion. Your Dreadnought has a tail, he said quietly. He drops his left shoulder before a physical strike. In a league match, you can cover that. In the wild, a predator will rip his throat out. Nessa didn't take the potion. She stared at his hand, then up at his eyes. She was shaking, not with fear, but with the brutal realization of her own ceiling. Is that what we're up against? She whispered, the Iron Crown. They're worse, Ash said. They don't stop when you faint. Sonia came running out of the house, clutching her tablet, breaking the tension.
Ash, Nessa, we have a problem. She held up the screen, displaying a map of the wild area. I just picked up a signature near the watchtower ruins. It's the same energy frequency as the hyper beam from yesterday.
Ash's eyes sharpened. The domestic awkwardness evaporated. They're still in the city limits?
Just outside, Sonia said. Motostoke outskirts. The weather patterns are going haywire there. It's a localized sandstorm inside a thunderstorm.
Suit up, Ash said to Nessa. We're leaving in 5.
Nessa looked at her fallen Dreadnought, then back to Ash. She took the potion from his hand. All drive. The journey to the wild area was silent. They took Nessa's personal vehicle, a sleek, modified off-road cruiser that handled the transitions from highway to dirt with ease. The wild area was usually a place of wandering trainers and camping families. Today, it was desolate. The sky above the watchtower ruins was a bruising purple, swirling with unnatural clouds.
Park here, Ash ordered as they crested a ridge. We walk the rest. The engine noise will give us away. They disembarked. The wind was howling, throwing sand and rain into their faces, a meteorological impossibility that confirmed Sonia's theory of artificial manipulation. Stay close, Ash said. He released Lucario and Surfetched. Nessa released Dreadnought, now healed. And a melodic. Sonia, looking terrified but determined, released a Sarina. They moved through the tall grass, the ruins of the ancient watchtower looming ahead like a broken tooth. Do you sense them? Ash asked Lucario. Lucario nodded, his aura appendages rising. 4 signatures. Inside the tower. Dark energy. They're baiting us, Ash murmured. It's a trap. So we leave? Sonia asked hopefully. No, Nessa said, her voice hard. She adjusted her gloves. We spring it. Ash looked at her. She was scared. He could see the tremor in her hands, but she was angry. Good. Anger was fuel. Nessa, take the left flank. Use the rain to mask your approach. Sonia, stay 50 yards back, keep Sarina on sensory duty. If anyone tries to flank us, you scream. And you? Nessa asked. I'm going through the front door. Ash stepped out of the grass, walking openly toward the archway of the ruins. Hey, I heard you guys were looking for a king. The response was instant. From the shadows of the broken masonry, 3 beams of dark energy fired. Surfetched, detect. The duck Pokémon raised his leak shield. A shimmering green barrier absorbed the blasts. Now, Ash roared. Nessa broke from the cover of the rain. Dreadnought, Rock Tomb, seal the exits. Dreadnought slammed the ground. Massive boulders erupted from the earth, blocking the rear archways of the tower, trapping the ambushers inside. Ash sprinted forward. Lucario, Bone Rush. Inside the ruins, 4 Iron Crown soldiers were scrambling. They had expected a cautious approach, not a breach. They released their Pokémon. A Shadow Ursaring, a Shadow Houndoom, and a massive, corrupted Corviknight. The battle was claustrophobic. The interior of the tower was tight, limiting movement. The Shadow Ursaring lunged for Ash, its claws glowing with purple fire. Lucario. Lucario intercepted, clashing his bone staff against the claws. Sparks flew. The sheer weight of the Ursaring pushed Lucario back. It's too strong. Sonia cried from the comms earpiece. That Ursaring's muscle density is triple the norm. Nessa. The Corviknight, Ash yelled. The metal bird was diving for Sonia's position outside. Nessa didn't hesitate. She didn't look at Ash for confirmation. She reacted. Melodic, hydro pump. Knock it out of the sky. Melodic coiled and fired a high-pressure jet. It struck the Corviknight in the wing, sending it spinning into the stone wall. But the Shadow Houndoom had circled around. It leapt from the upper gantry, aiming for Ash's exposed back while he focused on the Ursaring. Ash, behind you, Nessa screamed. Ash didn't turn. Dragonite, Dragonclaw. The ball at his belt burst open. Dragonite materialized instantly, spinning in midair, and backhanded the Houndoom with a claw wreathed in green energy. The Hellhound smashed into a pillar, cracking the stone. Formation B. The lead soldier shouted. The 3 shadow Pokémon roared in unison. They began to glow, their energies merging. A dark technique Ash had never seen before. The air grew heavy, suffocating. They're synchronizing, Sonia warned. Get out of there, it's a blast wave. No time, Ash gritted his teeth. Nessa, on me, we have to break the center. Nessa looked at the swirling vortex of energy building between the Ursaring, Houndoom, and Corviknight. It was a bomb. Break it? She yelled over the wind. With what? Combo move, Ash said. He looked at her. Trust me. Electrify the water. Nessa's eyes widened. It was reckless. It would hurt their own Pokémon if they messed up. She looked at Ash. He was grinning. A feral, battle-hungry grin. Melodic, surf. Flood the chamber, Nessa commanded. Pikachu, ride the wave. Thunderbolt. Melodic summoned a tidal wave from the damp air, crashing it into the ruins. The water swirled, catching the shadow Pokémon in a vortex. Pikachu leapt onto the crest of the wave. His cheeks sparked, blindingly bright. Shoo! Electricity surged through the water. Since the shadow Pokémon were submerged, the conductivity was instant and unavoidable. The ruins lit up like a strobe light. The soldiers screamed, their armor shielding them but the shockwave knocking them off their feet. The explosion of steam blew the roof off the tower. When the mist cleared, the 3 shadow Pokémon were unconscious, twitching. The soldiers were groaning on the floor. Ash stood amidst the puddles, steam rising from his shoulders. He offered a high five to Pikachu. Nessa stood panting, her hair plastered to her face. She looked at the devastation. They had neutralized a kill squad in under 60 seconds. Did we? Nessa started. We won, Ash said. He walked over to the lead soldier, who was trying to crawl toward a dropped transponder. Ash stepped on the device, crushing it. Who is Valerius? Ash asked, his voice low. The soldier laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. He is the storm that is coming. You are just an umbrella. The soldier bit down on his molar. Foam appeared at his lips. Don't let him, Sonia shouted, running in. Poison, Ash noted, stepping back. Fanatics.
The soldier went limp. Night had fallen by the time the police and the lead cleanup crew arrived to take the bodies and the Pokémon away. Ash, Nessa, and Sonia sat on the tailgate of Nessa's rover, watching the flashing lights of the police cruisers.
They were exhausted. The adrenaline crash was hitting hard. Sonia was bandaging a cut on Ash's arm, a graze from the Ursaring he hadn't mentioned earlier. You have so many, Sonia whispered, tracing the jagged white line of an old scar on his shoulder. That one's from a Spearow flock on my first day, Ash said, chuckling. And that one, Mewtwo. Nessa sat next to him, wrapped in a towel. She wasn't looking at the scars with disgust, but with a strange fascination. You really have fought everything, Nessa said softly. I've been lucky, Ash said. I've had good friends. He looked at them. You guys were great today. Nessa, that surf was perfect timing. And Sonia, if you hadn't warned us about the synchronization, we'd be toast. Nessa looked down at her hands. I froze for a second, when the Corviknight dived. But you moved, Ash said. That's what matters. I thought. Nessa hesitated. I thought you were arrogant, coming into my region, taking the title. I thought you were just another kid with a strong Charizard. She looked him in the eye. The icy facade was gone, melted by the heat of the battle. But you're not a kid, she said. You're a warlord. I'm just a trainer, Ash corrected. No, Sonia said, finishing the bandage. She adjusted her glasses, her expression serious. The history books talk about the ancient heroes. Zacian and Zamazenta weren't just Pokémon. They were partnered with kings who fought on the front lines. That's what this is. She looked at the gloomy horizon. Valerius. The Iron Crown. They want to bring back the ancient days, dark days. Then we stop them, Ash said. He hopped off the tailgate. But first, we eat. I'm starving. Nessa laughed. It was a short, startled sound, but it was genuine. You ruined the moment, Ketchum. Can't save the world on an empty stomach, Ash grinned. As they packed up the rover, the dynamic had shifted. The stiffness of the morning was gone. They weren't friends yet, not quite, but they were a squad. They had bled together. Ash took the driver's seat this time. Nessa didn't object. She sat in the passenger seat, watching his profile illuminated by the dashboard lights. She had been forced into this marriage, this triad. She had hated him for it, but as she watched him check on Pikachu, saw the gentle way he handled the sleeping mouse after the violence of the battle, she felt something shift in her chest.
It wasn't love, it was safety. For the first time since Leon fell, she felt like Galar might actually have a chance.
Ash? Nessa asked as the engine roared to life. Yeah? Next time. Teach me how to dodge the water gun. Ash smiled, keeping his eyes on the road. Deal. Chapter 2 End. Chapter 3. Echoes in the fog. The air in Ballenly was always heavy with the scent of bioluminescent mushrooms and damp earth, but tonight, it smelled of ozone and old fear. The fog was thicker than usual, clinging to the ancient trees of Glimwood Tangle like a living shroud.
Ash stood at the edge of the forest, the collar of his jacket turned up against the chill. He wasn't wearing his champion uniform. He was in dark tactical gear provided by the council's security detail, blending into the shadows.
Beside him, Sonia adjusted her backpack. It was loaded with scanning equipment, heavy and cumbersome. She looked nervous.
Are you sure about this? Sonia whispered. Nessa is going to kill us for leaving her behind. Nessa has to handle the press conference in Hulbury, Ash replied, keeping his voice low. If all three of us disappear, Vane panics. Besides, this is your domain. My domain. Sonia scoffed, checking the battery on her spectral analyzer. I study books, Ash. Not haunted forests filled with Iron Crown zealots. You know the history, Ash said, turning to look at her. His eyes were steady, grounding her. We're looking for the rusted soul. You're the only one who knows what that actually is. Sonia took a breath. He was right. The interrogation of the captured soldier had yielded a location, the roots of the glowing tree. The soul of the forgotten king. It was cryptic, but Sonia had found a reference in her grandmother's archives to a lost artifact buried near Bolonlia, a relic from the darkest era, predating the modern Galarian monarchy. It's a conduit, Sonia explained as they stepped into the tree line. Legend says the ancient kings used it to amplify the energy of their Pokémon, driving them into a frenzy. It's like a primitive Dynamax band, but darker. It feeds on the user's life force.
Sounds pleasant, Ash muttered. Pikachu, stay sharp.
Pikachu, perched on Ash's shoulder, twitched his ears. Pika. The forest was unnaturally silent. Usually, Glimwood Tangle was alive with the chatter of Impidimp and the rustle of Hatram. Tonight, nothing moved. The ecosystem is disturbed, Ash noted, crouching to examine a patch of withered glowing mushrooms. Something drained the life out of these. Energy absorption, Sonia said, waving her scanner over the fungus. Just like the blast at the tower. But more passive. It's like the forest is being eaten. They moved deeper. The path twisted and turned, the giant mushrooms glowing with a rhythmic, pulsating light that felt almost hypnotic.
Wait, Sonia hissed, grabbing Ash's arm. What?
The path changed, she said, pointing her flashlight. We passed that crooked oak tree 5 minutes ago. I marked it.
Ash looked. There was a small scratch on the bark. She was right. Illusions, Ash realized. We're walking in circles.
It's a fairy glamour, Sonia said, her voice rising in pitch. Powerful stuff. We need to break the cycle. How? Logic doesn't work here, Sonia said, closing her eyes, trying to recall the folklore. Fairy types respond to emotion. To intent. If we try to force our way through, the forest resists. We have to ask. Ash blinked. Ask the trees. Ask the guardian, Sonia corrected. Before Ash could respond, a high, cackling laugh echoed through the mist. The fog swirled, coalescing into a figure floating a few feet off the ground. An old woman, dressed in purple, holding an umbrella. Opal, the gym leader of Bolonlia. Well, Opal crooned, drifting closer. The new king and his queen. Wandering in my garden without an invitation. Opal, Ash said, relaxing his stance slightly but keeping his hand near his belt. We didn't want to disturb you. Disturb me. Opal laughed sharply. The whole forest is screaming, boy. Can't you hear it? She drifted closer to Ash, peering into his face with unsettling intensity. You have a loud soul, champion. Cluttered. Noisy. She turned to Sonia. And you. The Magnolia girl. Full of questions, empty of answers. We're looking for the rusted soul, Sonia said, stepping forward. We believe the Iron Crown is trying to excavate it.
Opal's playful demeanor vanished instantly. The temperature plummeted.
That name, Opal whispered, is forbidden. They're here, aren't they? Ash asked. Opal floated down, landing softly on the moss. She looked tired. They came 2 nights ago. Men in metal masks. They didn't ask for permission. They brought things. Pokémon that felt like open wounds in the world. Shadow Pokémon, Ash confirmed. They went to the ruins of the Hollow, Opal said, pointing with her umbrella deeper into the thicket. Below the roots of the elder tree. I tried to stop them. My alchemy. Her voice trembled. They hurt her. Not physically. They drained her color. She is gray now. Lifeless. Ash's fist clenched. Show us the way, Opal. It is dangerous, Opal warned. The entity they serve, Valerius. He was there. He spoke to me. Valerius is here, Sonia gasped. He is a polite monster, Opal said. He told me he was simply reclaiming his inheritance. He called himself the true king.
He's a terrorist, Ash said, and I'm going to stop him.
Opal studied Ash for a long moment. Very well. But the illusion protects the ruins. To pass, you must walk with conviction. If you doubt, even for a second, the forest will swallow you. I don't doubt, Ash said. They reached the clearing an hour later. The center of the glade was dominated by a colossal tree, its roots twisting like serpents into the earth. Between the roots, a gaping maw of darkness led underground.
Guards stood at the entrance. 4 of them. Iron Crown, Ash whispered.
They have heavy weapons, Sonia noted, spotting the tripod-mounted energy cannons. Those aren't for Pokemon battles. Those are anti-aircraft guns.
They're digging in, Ash assessed. They must have found it.
He looked at Sonia. Stay here with Opal. Keep the exit clear. No, Sonia said firmly. The artifact is unstable. If they try to move it without containment, it could detonate. You need me to stabilize it.
Ash looked at her. She wasn't a fighter, but she was right. Stay behind me, Ash ordered. If I say run, you run.
Deal. Ash stood up. Pikachu, Gengar, Sirfetch'd. Let's go. He released the ghost and fighting types. Gengar, sink into the shadows. Disable those cannons. Sirfetch'd, shield wall. Pikachu, suppression fire. They moved. Ash didn't shout. He signaled with hand gestures. Gengar dissolved into the floor, reappearing behind the gunners. A nightshade blast knocked the guards into the machinery before they could fire a shot. Sirfetch'd charged the remaining infantry, his shield deflecting a barrage of assault rifle fire.
Go. Ash grabbed Sonia's hand and sprinted for the tunnel.
They plunged into the darkness. The tunnel was man-made, ancient stone work that smelled of decay. The deeper they went, the colder it got. They emerged into a vast underground chamber. In the center, suspended over a pit of glowing violet liquid, was a pedestal. On it sat a jagged, rusted crown. The rusted soul. Standing before it was a man. He was tall, wearing a tailored suit with a high collar that evoked a military uniform. He had pale skin and hair the color of moonlight. He held a cane topped with a Calyrex statuette. Lord Valerius. He turned slowly as Ash and Sonia entered. He didn't look surprised. Champion Ketchum, Valerius said. His voice was smooth, cultured, and utterly devoid of warmth. And Professor Magnolia. How prompt. Step away from the artifact, Ash said, his voice echoing in the chamber. Pikachu sparked on his shoulder. It belongs to my family, Valerius said, caressing the air near the crown. My ancestor, King Valerius I, wore this when he unified the tribes of Galar. Before the Zacian usurpers erased him from history. Your ancestor was a tyrant who used Pokemon as fuel, Sonia spoke up, her voice shaking but loud. The history books say the darkest day wasn't an accident. It was a weapon he tried to create. Valerius smiled. History is written by the victors, my dear. And soon, I shall rewrite it. He tapped his cane. From the shadows of the chamber, a Pokemon emerged. It was bipedal, massive, draped in tattered rags. A Grimmsnarl. But it was huge, nearly 10 feet tall. And it was wrong. Its hair wasn't black and pink. It was white and crimson. Its eyes were bleeding purple light. A mega-evolved Shadow Grimmsnarl. Sonia gasped. That's impossible. Galar doesn't have mega stones. We improvised, Valerius said. Grimmsnarl, kill them. The monster roared, a sound like tearing metal. It leapt, crossing the 50 feet between them in a heartbeat. Sirfetch'd, block, Ash yelled. Sirfetch'd stepped forward, raising his shield. The Grimmsnarl's fist slammed into the leak. Crack. Sirfetch'd was driven into the stone floor, his knees buckling. The impact shockwave threw Ash and Sonia backward. It's too heavy. Ash scrambled up. Pikachu. Thunderbolt. Max power. Pikachu unleashed a bolt of lightning that would have fried a Gyarados. It struck the Grimmsnarl square in the chest. The monster didn't even flinch. It absorbed the electricity, its purple aura glowing brighter. It feeds on energy. Sonia realized. Don't use special attacks. Physical only. Lucario, come out. Ash threw the ball. Bone rush. Go for the legs. Lucario materialized and swept the Grimmsnarl's ankles. The giant stumbled, but recovered instantly, grabbing Lucario by the head and slamming him into the wall. Lucario slumped, dazed. No. Ash screamed. Valerius watched impassively. You fight with friendship, Ketchum. I fight with dominance. That is why you will lose. The Grimmsnarl turned its attention to the weakest link. Sonia. It lunged. Sonia froze. She stared at the descending claw, unable to move.
Sonia. Ash didn't issue a command. He didn't use a Pokemon.
He threw himself. Ash tackled Sonia, shoving her out of the path of the claw. The Grimmsnarl's talons raked across Ash's back, shredding his tactical vest and carving deep furrows into his skin. Ash hit the ground, rolling, blood spraying the ancient stones. He groaned, a guttural sound of pain, but he kept moving, dragging Sonia behind a pillar. Ash! Sonia screamed, seeing the blood. I'm fine, Ash wheezed, his face pale. He stood up, swaying. Something changed in the room. Pikachu saw the blood. Lucario, shaking off the concussion, saw the blood. The air pressure dropped. Ash's eyes, usually warm brown, seemed to glow with a faint blue light. Aura. He wasn't just a trainer giving orders anymore. He was connecting. Lucario, Ash whispered. The word wasn't spoken, it was projected into the Pokemon's mind. Sync.
Lucario stood up. His aura flared, not blue, but a blinding gold. Surfetched, Ash commanded. Meteor Assault. Pikachu, Ash said. Volt Tackle.
Now, the three Pokemon moved as one organism. Surfetch'd launched himself like a missile, his leek glowing with the force of a falling star. He struck the Grimmsnarl in the chest, shattering its guard. Lucario followed up instantly, a palm strike of pure aura hitting the exact same spot. Internal damage. The Grimmsnarl roared in agony, faltering. Pikachu was the finisher. He was a golden bullet. He struck the Grimmsnarl's jaw, the force of the impact snapping the monster's head back. The giant fell. It crashed to the floor, the purple aura dissipating, returning to its normal size and color. Silence filled the chamber. Valerius looked at his fallen ace. He didn't look angry. He looked intrigued. Fascinating, Valerius murmured. The bond phenomenon. I thought it was a myth. He looked at Ash, who was leaning against the pillar, bleeding heavily. You have won the battle, champion, Valerius said. He reached out and grabbed the rusted crown. But the war is just beginning. He crushed a teleportation gem in his hand. In a flash of warped light, he and the crown vanished. Ash, stay with me. Sonia was pressing her hands against Ash's back, trying to staunch the bleeding. Her hands were slick with red. She was crying, tears streaming down her face, mixing with the dust. It's not deep, Ash lied, his teeth gritted. Just a scratch. It's 3 inches deep, Sonia sobbed. Why did you do that? Why did you jump? Ash looked at her over his shoulder. His vision was blurring. Because we're a team. You're the brains. I'm the shield. You're an idiot, Sonia yelled, ripping a strip from her shirt to bind the wound. Pikachu was nuzzling Ash's cheek, making soft, distressed noises. Lucario stood guard, his eyes burning with fury at his own failure to protect his master. We need to get him out, Sonia said to Lucario. Can you carry him? Lucario nodded. He gently lifted Ash in his arms. They made their way out of the ruins. The Iron Crown guards had fled when Valerius vanished. Opal met them at the entrance. She took one look at Ash and her face hardened. Bring him to my cottage, Opal commanded. I have medicines the hospitals don't know about. Later that night, in Opal's cottage, Ash lay on a plush velvet sofa, bandaged from shoulder to waist. He was asleep, finally, sedated by Opal's herbal tea. Sonia sat in a chair beside him, watching his chest rise and fall. She had washed the blood off her hands, but she could still feel the warmth of it. The door opened. Nessa stormed in. She was still wearing her dress from the press conference, soaking wet from the rain. She had driven from Hulbury in record time after Sonia's frantic call.
Where is he? Nessa demanded, her voice frantic.
She saw him. She stopped. She walked over slowly, looking at the bandages. She looked at Sonia. Is he? He'll be fine, Sonia whispered. Opal says no permanent damage to the muscle. Just scars. Nessa let out a breath she had been holding for 3 hours. She slumped into the chair next to Sonia. What happened? Nessa asked. He took a hit for me, Sonia said, her voice trembling. A Grimsnarl. It would have cut me in half. He didn't even think. Ness. He just moved.
Nessa looked at Ash's sleeping face. He looked so young when he wasn't frowning in concentration.
He meant it, Nessa said softly. When he said he'd handle the fighting. I felt it, Sonia said, looking at her hands. When he commanded the counterattack. It wasn't just strategy. I could feel his will. It was like gravity. Nessa reached out and brushed a strand of hair from Ash's forehead. Her touch was lingering. We have to stop treating him like a stranger, Nessa said. He's not just the champion. He's ours. Sonia looked up, surprised by the possessiveness in Nessa's tone. Ours to protect? Sonia asked. Nessa's eyes darkened. Ours to stand with. Valerius hurt him. Valerius took the crown. This isn't politics anymore.
Nessa stood up, the water dripping from her dress turning into ice on the floorboards.
This is vengeance. Chapter 3 end. Chapter 4. The Drowning City. The world was gray. Not the soft gray of a Galar drizzle, but the oppressive, charcoal slate of a hurricane brewing just offshore. Hulbury, the jewel of the coast, felt like it was holding its breath. Nessa stood on the end of the main pier, the wind whipping her long hair into a frenzy. The ocean was angry. The waves were cresting higher than the storm wall, dark and foamy, slamming against the concrete with the rhythm of a war drum. Ash stood beside her. He was still stiff from the injury in Bolonlia 3 days ago, his torso wrapped in compression bandages under his shirt. He leaned against the railing, watching the horizon. The tide is wrong, Nessa said, her voice barely audible over the roar of the surf. It's too high. And it's not receding. Valerius? Ash asked. The energy signatures match, Sonia's voice crackled over their comms. She was back at the estate, monitoring the satellite array. I'm picking up massive G-max energy spikes, underwater. About 5 miles out. It's not a Pokemon. It's a fissure.
A fissure? Nessa tapped her earpiece. Like a power spot? Like a tear in the fabric of reality, Sonia corrected, sounding terrified. If it opens fully, it won't just release energy. It'll release the sea. Hulbury is below sea level, Ness, if that wave hits. Evacuate the lower districts, Ash said instantly. He turned to Nessa. Sound the alarm. Nessa hesitated for a fraction of a second, the politician in her worrying about panic, but the gym leader in her took over. She pulled her Rotom phone. This is Gym Leader Nessa. Code Blue. Repeat, Code Blue. Activate the flood sirens. Get everyone to the stadium, now.
As if on cue, the ocean exploded. 5 miles out, a pillar of purple light shot into the clouds. The water around it boiled. From the depths of the light, a shape emerged. It was colossal, a mountainous silhouette of water and rage. A Gigantamax Kingler. No, bigger. It's a storm deity, Nessa whispered, her face draining of color. An ancient form of Lugia. Archaeogre. It's corrupted, Ash said, squinting. Look at the aura. It's shadow energy. The entity roared, a sound that wasn't heard, but felt in the bones. It raised a massive wing, and the ocean rose with it. A tsunami, 50 feet high, began to roll toward the city. Ash, Nessa said, grabbing his arm. Her grip was painful. We can't stop that. My Pokemon. They can't hold back the ocean. Ash looked at the wave. Then he looked at Nessa. You don't have to stop the ocean, Ash said. You just have to guide it.
What? You're the master of water, Ash said, his eyes burning with intensity. This is your city. That water answers to you, not him.
He pulled 3 Pokeballs from his belt. I'll handle the beast. You handle the wave.
I can't. You can, Ash shouted, grabbing her shoulders. I've seen you battle. You don't fight the current, you ride it, now go. He shoved her toward the stadium control center and turned to the sea. Dragonite, Dracovish, Gengar, the 3 Pokemon materialized.
We're going fishing, Ash growled. Dragonite, fly me out there. Gengar, Gigantamax. We need size to fight size. Gengar laughed, a manic sound, and began to grow. He swelled into his G-Max form, a terrifying gate to the underworld, his mouth a cavern leading to oblivion. Ash jumped onto Dragonite's back. Let's go. They flew straight into the storm. Nessa sprinted through the panicked streets. The sirens wailed, a mournful drone. People were screaming, running, clutching children and belongings.
She reached the seawall. The wave was closer now, a wall of death blotting out the sky. I can't stop it, she whispered to herself. Ash is insane.
But she remembered his eyes. The absolute certainty in them. That water answers to you. She closed her eyes. She felt the moisture in the air. She felt the pulse of the ocean. It was chaotic, violent, screaming in pain from the shadow energy. Dreadnought. She threw her ball. Gigantamax. The turtle grew, becoming a fortress of rock and water, standing on its hind legs, towering over the pier.
Melodic. Pelipper, Seeking, Toxapex, Barracuda. She emptied her belt. Her full team assembled on the breakwater.
Listen to me, Nessa screamed, her voice amplified by the storm. We are not fighting a Pokemon. We are fighting nature. Synchronize.
She raised her hands. Hydro pump, all of you, into the base of the wave.
Her team fired. 6 beams of high-pressure water slammed into the oncoming tsunami. It didn't stop it. It was like shooting a pistol at a freight train. It's not working, she cried. You don't fight the current. You ride it. Change angle. Nessa realized. Don't push back. Lift. Use the water to create a ramp. Dreadnought. Stone edge. Build a breakwater. Melodic. Surf. Redirect the flow. Dreadnought slammed the seabed. Massive pillars of rock shot up, creating a jagged rampart. Melodic summoned a counter wave, not to block, but to divert. The tsunami hit. It slammed into the rocks, shattered, and was caught by Melodic's stream. Instead of crushing the city, the water was channeled sideways, flooding the uninhabited marshlands to the east. The spray soaked Nessa to the bone, knocking her off her feet. But the buildings stood. The people were safe. She looked up, gasping for air. Ash. Ash was in hell. The storm deity was a shadow Lugia, twisted and mutated by Galar particles. It was shedding black scales that turned into miniature storms upon hitting the water. G-Max Gengar was grappling with it, ghostly hands trying to drag the bird into the shadow realm. But the Lugia was too strong. It blasted Gengar with an aeroblast that vaporized the water for a mile. Dragonite. Evasive maneuvers. Ash yelled, clinging to the dragon's neck. The wind was tearing at his bandages. The wound on his back burned like fire. Dracovish. Fishious rend on the wing joint. Dracovish, swimming in the turbulent sea below, launched itself out of the water like a missile. It clamped its jaws onto the Lugia's wing. The Lugia shrieked. It spun, shaking Dracovish off, and fired a beam of shadow energy at Ash. Dragonite. Hyper beam. The two beams collided. Explosion. Ash was thrown from Dragonite's back. He fell toward the churning black water. Pikachu. Pikachu, falling with him, grabbed Ash's shirt. Iron tail on the water. Break the surface tension. Pikachu slammed his tail into the ocean a split second before they hit, creating a pocket of air. They plunged underwater. It was dark, cold, and silent. Ash held his breath. He saw the shadow Lugia diving after them. It moved underwater with terrifying grace. Ash's lungs burned. He was drowning. Is this it? He thought. Not a bad run. Then, a light. A blue glow cut through the darkness. A figure swam toward him. Fast. Elegant. Nessa. She was underwater, without gear, swimming with the strength of a Gyarados. She had dived off the pier. She grabbed Ash by the collar. She pointed to the surface. Then she pointed past him. Her dreadnought, now normal size but still massive, slammed into the Lugia, biting its neck. Nessa pulled Ash to the surface. They broke the water, gasping. You idiot! Nessa screamed, treading water, holding him up. You fell off your dragon. He slipped. Ash coughed, spitting out saltwater. Above them, Dragonite and Gengar were dive-bombing the distracted Lugia. We need to finish this, Ash said. It's regenerating from the water. Then we take the water away, Nessa said. Her eyes were glowing with a strange blue light, the same light Ash had when he used Aura. But this was different. This was the ocean's blessing. Dreadnought, Nessa commanded. Her voice carried underwater. G-Max Stony Surge. Seal the fissure. The distant G-Max Dreadnought, which she had apparently recalled and redeployed near the rift, roared. It slammed the ocean floor. Massive spikes of rock erupted from the seabed, surrounding the shadow Lugia and the purple rift. The rocks interlocked, forming a cage. Pikachu! Ash yelled. Thunder! Use the cage as a conductor.
Pikachu, riding on Dragonite who swooped low, leapt onto the rock cage.
Pika-Chu! The lightning struck the wet rocks. The cage became an electric chair. The shadow Lugia screamed as millions of volts surged through its water-soaked body. The purple light faded. The Lugia shrank, the shadow leaving it. It collapsed, floating on the surface, unconscious but purified. The storm broke. The sun was setting by the time they dragged themselves onto the beach. The city was battered, wet, and covered in seaweed, but it was standing. The people were coming out of the shelters, cheering. Ash lay on the sand, staring at the sky. He couldn't move. Every muscle fiber was on strike. Nessa sat beside him, wringing out her hair. She looked at him. You trusted me, she said. You're the gym leader, Ash mumbled. Of course I trusted you. No, Nessa said. She lay down next to him on the sand, staring at the same sky. You trusted me with my city. Leon never did that. Leon would have told me to evacuate while he handled it. She turned her head to look at him. Their faces were inches apart. You gave me the command, she whispered. And because of that, I saved them. We saved them, Ash corrected. Nessa smiled. It was a real smile. Soft, vulnerable. She reached out and took his hand. His fingers were rough, calloused. Hers were cool, elegant. The triad, she said, testing the word. Maybe it's not just a contract. Ash squeezed her hand. Maybe not. Sonia came running down the beach, carrying a med kit and crying. You too. You reckless, suicidal maniacs. She threw herself onto them, hugging both of them into the sand. I thought you died. Sonia sobbed into Ash's chest. We're okay, Ash groaned, patting her head. Ow, ribs. Shut up, Sonia sniffled. She looked at Nessa. You were amazing, Ness. The way you moved that water. I've never seen readings like that. I learned from the best, Nessa said, looking at Ash. Ash closed his eyes. He felt the warmth of Sonia on his chest, the cool grip of Nessa's hand, and the sand beneath his back. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a traveler passing through. He felt like he was home. Let's go home, Ash said. Yeah, Nessa whispered. Let's go home. As they limped back toward the city, the cameras flashed. The image would be on every front page the next morning. The champion, battered and bandaged, flanked by the professor and the water leader, walking arm in arm out of the wreckage. The caption would read, "The crown is united." But in the shadows of a Hammerlock penthouse, a man watched the news feed. Ryan, the dragon tamer, turned off the TV. He looked at the figure sitting in the corner of his room. They're strong, Ryan said, his voice tight. Stronger than we thought. Valerius stepped out of the shadow. He placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. Strength is irrelevant, Valerius said soothingly. Loyalty is what matters. And you, Ryan, you are loyal to the true history of Galar, aren't you? Ryan looked at the Pokeball in his hand. It was shaking. I just want Leon back, Ryan whispered. Help me destroy Ketchum, Valerius promised, and you shall have him. Chapter 4 End. Chapter 5. Treason at the Round Table. The summons arrived on parchment, sealed with wax, not via rotom mail. It was archaic, theatrical, and official. The High Council requested the presence of the Triad at Hammerlock Castle to discuss the allocation of reconstruction funds, following the Hulbury incident. Ash hated it immediately. It's a 3-hour drive, Ash complained, adjusting the collar of his formal suit. He felt like he was being strangled by silk. Why can't we do this over video call? Because you don't wear a suit on video calls, Sonia said, straightening his tie. She lingered for a moment, her fingers brushing his neck. The intimacy had become casual, domestic. And because the council loves pageantry. You're the hero of the hour, Ash. They want to parade you. Nessa walked into the foyer. She wore a gown of midnight blue that looked like liquid water, but her expression was stormy. I don't like it. Vane has been too quiet. After the security breach at the tower, she should be screaming for audits. Instead, silence. Maybe she's scared, Ash said. He checked his belt. 6 balls. Full team. He never went anywhere without them now. We go, we smile, we get the funding for your city, and we leave. Simple, Sonia said. Nothing in this region is simple, Nessa muttered. Hammerlock was less a city and more a fortress built on the bones of a dragon. The castle loomed over the landscape, dark stone toothwork against a gray sky. The air here was thinner, colder. They were ushered not into the main audience chamber, but down. Down into the vaults. The room was circular, lit by torches held in iron sconces. The round table, a relic of the ancient monarchy, sat in the center. Councillor Vane sat at the head. But she wasn't alone. Standing in the shadows of the pillars were elite guards. Not the usual League security. These men wore the crest of the Hammerlock Dragon Guard. And leaning against the far wall, tossing a heavy dusk ball in his hand, was Ryan. The dragon tamer didn't smile. He didn't take a selfie. He looked at Ash with eyes that were hard and dull. "You're late," Vane said. Her voice echoed in the stone chamber. "Traffic," Ash said, stepping forward. He placed his hands on the back of a chair but didn't sit. He sensed the shift in air pressure. The trap. Where are the other counselors? Dismissed, Vane said. This is a closed session. Regarding the investigation into the Hulbury Shadow event. We solved the event, Nessa said, stepping up beside Ash. You're welcome. Did you? Vane tapped a remote. A holographic screen flickered to life above the table. It showed footage of the battle. But it was edited. It showed Ash's Dragonite firing a hyper beam at the city. It showed Nessa's Dreadnought destroying the sea wall. It showed Ash standing on the pier, seemingly commanding the Shadow Lugia. Fabrication, Sonia snapped. That's deep fake footage. Look at the pixel density on the aura. The public won't look at pixel density, Vane said smoothly. They will see a foreign champion bringing disaster to our shores to frame himself as a savior. They will see a gym leader complicit in the destruction of her own home to gain political favor. Ash went very still. What do you want, Vane? I want order, Vane said. She stood up. The Iron Crown has offered us a deal. Absolute stability. The return of the old laws. In exchange, we hand over the usurper. You're working with Valerius, Ash stated. It wasn't a question. I serve Galar, Vane corrected. And Galar needs a king, not a sports star. She pointed a finger at Ash. Ash Ketchum, you are under arrest for treason, ecoterrorism, and the unlawful use of legendary energy. Surrender your Pokemon. Ash looked at Ryan. Ryan, Ash said softly. You know this is a lie. You were Leon's rival. You know what honor is. Ryan flinched. For a second, the mask slipped. Leon is gone, Ash. He vanished 3 days ago. The council says. They says you had him liquidated to secure your throne. That's insane, Ash said. Leon is my friend. Then prove it, Ryan said, his voice cracking. Surrender. Submit to the trial. If you're innocent, the truth comes out. There won't be a trial, Nessa hissed. They'll kill him in the cell. Seize him, Vane ordered. The guards moved. Now, Ash roared. He didn't reach for a Pokeball. He kicked the heavy oak chair at the nearest guard, shattering the wood and sending the man sprawling. Run. Ash shoved Sonia and Nessa toward the service exit. Duraludon. Ryan shouted. The alloy Pokemon materialized, blocking the exit. It roared, a metallic screech. Ash. Nessa grabbed a candelabra and swung it at a guard, but she was tackled. 2 men pinned her to the ground. Sonia was grabbed by her hair, screaming as she was dragged back. No. Ash spun around. Lucario. Ash threw the ball, but as it left his hand, a laser shot rang out. A sniper in the rafters. The beam hit the Pokeball in midair. The mechanism shattered. The ball fell to the floor, dead. Lucario was trapped inside. Don't move, Ketchum. Ryan stepped forward, Flygon materializing beside him. Or the next shot takes the professor's head off. Ash froze. He looked at Sonia. A guard had a gun pressed to her temple. She was weeping, terrified. Nessa was struggling, snarling, but held fast by 3 men. Let them go, Ash said, his voice shaking with suppressed rage. This is between us. They are accomplices, Vane said. They will remain here, as guests, as long as you cooperate. She walked over to Ash. Your belt. Slowly. Ash looked at Ryan. Ryan couldn't meet his eyes. Ash slowly unclipped his belt. Dragonite. Gengar. Sirfetch'd. Dracovish. The broken remains of Lucario's ball. He dropped them on the stone floor. They clattered loudly. And the rat, Vane said, looking at Pikachu. Pikachu was on Ash's shoulder, cheeks sparking, ready to die before moving. Touch him, Ash whispered, and I will burn this castle down with my bare hands. Vane paused. She saw the look in the boy's eyes. It wasn't the look of a trainer. It was the look of a monster. Fine, Vane said. Take him to the isolation wing. We transport him to the Crown Tundra facility in the morning.
2 guards grabbed Ash's arms. He didn't struggle. He looked at Nessa and Sonia.
Stay alive, he mouthed. Nessa stopped struggling. She nodded. Once. A promise. They dragged him away. The isolation cell was high in the central spire. No windows. One heavy steel door. Ash sat on the cot. They had taken his Rotom phone, his bag, his hat. He felt naked. Pikachu sat on his knee, ears drooping. Pika Pie. I know, buddy, Ash whispered, stroking the fur. I know. He closed his eyes, extending his aura. He felt for his Pokémon. They were far below, in the containment vault. He couldn't reach them. He felt for Sonia and Nessa. They were 2 floors down, in the royal suite. Alive. Scared. He felt something else. A draft. Ash opened his eyes. He looked at the stone wall. It was solid masonry, but the air pressure was different near the floor. He knelt. There was a loose stone. Not an accident. A hidden passage. No, too small. A drainage chute. Pikachu, Ash whispered. Iron tail. Can you cut the grate? Pikachu looked at the heavy iron bars embedded in the stone. He nodded. Chew. Pikachu's tail glowed white. He sliced. It wasn't a loud explosion. It was a surgical cut. The bars clattered inward. The hole was small. Tight. We fit, Ash decided. He squeezed into the chute. It was claustrophobic, smelling of mold and centuries of dust. He crawled, dragging himself by his elbows, Pikachu scrambling ahead. They crawled for what felt like hours. Finally, the chute opened up. Ash tumbled out, falling 10 feet into a snowdrift. The cold hit him like a hammer. He was outside, on the northern face of the castle, hanging over a precipice. The wind was howling. He was in a suit. No coat. No gear. Alert. Prisoner escape. Sector 4. Sirens blared. Spotlights swept the snow.
We have to move, Ash chattered, his teeth slamming together. Pikachu, up.
Pikachu jumped into his shirt for warmth. Ash ran. He slid down the icy embankment, tearing his suit trousers, scraping his hands raw on the rocks. He hit the tree line of the Glimwood outskirts just as a flygon screeched overhead. Ryan was hunting. He escaped. Vane stood in the center of the royal suite. It was a gilded cage. Plush furniture, a warm fire, and bars on the windows. Nessa sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Sonia was pacing. Of course he did, Nessa said, not looking up. You can't cage a storm, Vane. You just made him angry. He will freeze to death, Vane said dismissively. It is 20 below zero tonight. He has no Pokémon. No coat. He has Pikachu, Sonia said. And he has spite. You have no idea what fuels him. Vane sneered. We have his team. We have his leverage. And we have you. If he returns, we execute you both. She turned to leave. Get comfortable. You'll be here a long time. Valerius arrives tomorrow to formalize the transition. The door slammed. The lock clicked. Sonia collapsed onto the sofa. We're dead. Ash is going to freeze, and we're going to be used as bargaining chips. Nessa stood up. She walked to the window, looking out at the blizzard swirling around the spire. Stop it, Nessa said sharply. Stop what? Being realistic. Stop acting like a victim, Nessa turned. Her eyes were hard. Ash told us to stay alive. He didn't say, wait to be rescued. She walked over to the ornate bathroom. She turned on the tap. What are you doing? Sonia asked. The plumbing, Nessa said. This castle is 600 years old. The pipes are lead and iron. They connect to the main reservoir. So, Nessa unpinned her hair. I don't have my Pokémon. But I know the water pressure schematics of every major building in Galar. It's part of the gym leader's civil defense training. She ripped the shower curtain rod off the wall. Help me break this valve, Nessa ordered. We're going to flood the sub-basement. Why? Because the sub-basement is where the heating generator is, Nessa smiled darkly. If we kill the heat, the electronic locks on the windows fail safe to open, to prevent fire entrapment. It's a code violation I noticed when we walked in. Sonia stared at her. Then, a slow grin spread across her face. That's brilliant. Ash taught us, Nessa said, jamming the metal rod into the pipe fixture. Don't fight the system. Break it. The wilderness was a white void. Ash couldn't feel his feet. His hands were blue. The wind cut through his thin shirt like razors. He was huddled under the roots of a massive pine tree, shivering so violently his vision blurred. Pikachu was pressed against his chest, using his own body heat and tiny static discharges to keep Ash's heart pumping. Ryan, Ash stuttered. See close. He could hear the crunch of snow. The heavy thud of a Duraludon. Come out, Ash. Ryan's voice carried over the wind. Don't die like this. I can protect you if you surrender. I'll make sure they don't kill you. Ash didn't move. He couldn't. He thought about giving up. It was so cold. If he slept, the pain would stop.
You're not a husband. You're a teammate, Nessa's voice.
We're looking for a king. Valerius's voice. Ash bit his tongue hard. The copper taste of blood woke him up. He wasn't going to die in a snowbank. Not after Alola. Not after the world coronation.
He looked at Pikachu. Buddy, one shot, Pika?
Signal flare, Ash whispered. Straight up. But they'll find us, Pikachu squeaked, or the meaning was clear.
That's the P point. Pikachu scrambled out. He aimed at the sky. Thunderbolt.
A jagged bolt of yellow lightning pierced the black clouds. It was a beacon visible for miles. Ryan saw it. There. The dragon tamer rode his Flygon toward the light, Duraludon trudging behind. They landed in the clearing.
Ash stood there. He was swaying, blue-lipped, looking like a corpse standing upright.
End of the line, champion, Ryan said, stepping off Flygon. He looked pained. Get on the dragon. I'll take you to the infirmary.
No, Ash croaked. Ash, look at you. You have nothing. I have. Friends, Ash whispered. From the darkness of the trees, eyes appeared.
Dozens of them. Galarian Darmanitan. Abomasnow. Beardic. Wild Pokemon. They weren't Ash's Pokemon. But they had seen the flare. They had felt the aura of a boy who was freezing to death, a boy who had once saved the world. The wilderness recognized its own. And Ash, even in his delirium, had projected a call for help. Not a command. A plea. An Abomasnow stepped forward, shielding Ash from the wind with its massive body. A pack of Darmanitan surrounded Ryan, snowballs of ice glowing in their hands.
Ryan stepped back. You controlled the wild pack? I asked, Ash said, his voice gaining a fraction of strength. I didn't catch them.
He looked at Ryan. You fight for a ghost, Ryan. Leon wouldn't want this. Ryan looked at the wall of wild Pokemon protecting the boy. He looked at his own Duraludon, a machine of war.
He hesitated. Then, the sound of engines. A hoverbike roared over the tree line. It wasn't league issue. It was painted with graffiti and spikes.
Piers. The dark-type leader. The bike skidded to a halt, spraying snow. Piers kicked the kickstand, holding a microphone stand like a weapon. Heard there was a party, Piers drawled, looking at Ryan. You didn't invite Spikemouth.
Behind Piers, another figure emerged from the shadows. B, the fighting leader, and Alistair, the ghost boy. The beacon, B said, cracking her knuckles. We saw it from Stowe on side.
Ryan, Piers said, his voice low and dangerous. Step away from the champion. Or I start singing. And you know how much my Obstagoon loves a mosh pit.
Ryan looked at the three gym leaders. He looked at Ash, who was now being supported by the Abomasnow. The odds had changed. This isn't over, Ryan said. He recalled his Duraludon. He mounted Flygon. Valerius is already moving on the estate. You're fighting a losing war. Then we'll lose together, Ash said. Ryan took off, disappearing into the blizzard. Ash's legs finally gave out. He collapsed. B caught him before he hit the snow.
We got him, B said, hoisting Ash onto her back effortlessly. He's hypothermic. We need to get him to the bunker in Spikemouth.
Piers looked at the shivering champion. Crazy kid. Calls half the region to a fistfight in a blizzard. Ash murmured something before he passed out. What did he say? Hollister asked, floating closer. He said. Piers leaned in. He said, don't forget the girls. Piers looked toward the distant lights of Hammerlock Castle. We won't, Piers promised. But first, we heal the king. Chapter 5 End. Chapter 6. The King of Hollows. The bunker beneath Spikemouth smelled of cheap hairspray, motor oil, and stale incense. It was the headquarters of Team Yell, but today, it was the war room for the resistance.
Ash sat on a crate of guitar amps, wrapped in 3 wool blankets. He held a steaming mug of tea that Marnie, Piers' little sister, had shoved into his hands 5 minutes ago. His color was better, the blue tint gone from his lips, but his eyes burned with a feverish intensity. Around him stood the ragtag alliance of Galar's loyalists. Piers leaned against a drum kit, tuning his bass. B was doing one-armed push-ups in the corner. Hollister floated silently near the ceiling. Gordy, the rock leader from Sirchester, was arguing with Milo about supply lines. We don't have the numbers, Gordy said, slamming a fist onto the map spread over a pool table. Valerius controls the Hammerlock garrison, the Macrocosmos security forces, and this new, Iron Crown, militia. They have air superiority. They have the castle. And they have Sonia and Nessa, Ash said. His voice cut through the noise. It was quiet, but it stopped every conversation in the room. We know, mate, Piers said, stopping his tuning. But rushing the castle is suicide. Ryan has the perimeter locked down with weather control. It's a perpetual sandstorm out there. We aren't rushing the castle, Ash said. He stood up, letting the blankets fall. He was wearing borrowed clothes, a punk rock leather jacket with studs and torn jeans. It was a jarring look, but it fit the jagged edge of his current mood.
Then what's the plan? B asked, flipping to her feet.
We divide them, Ash said. He walked to the map. Valerius wants absolute control. He thinks he's a king. Kings have egos. We challenge that. He pointed to the crown tundra. He's not in the castle. My aura sensed it before I escaped. The real power source isn't Hammerlock. It's here. The split point. The Temple of Calyrex.
That's where the legends say the King of Bountiful Harvests lost his steed, Hollister whispered.
Valerius isn't just a politician, Ash said. He's a fanatic. He wants to bond with Calyrex to legitimize his rule. He's going to the tundra to complete the ritual using the rusted soul he stole.
If he bonds with a legendary, Milo gulped, he becomes a god. Exactly, Ash said. So we hit him there. We draw his main forces to the tundra.
And the castle? Piers asked. Ash looked at Marnie. Marnie, you and Team Yell are the distraction. I need you to riot. Loudly. At the front gates of Hammerlock. Make them think the main attack is there.
Marnie smirked, popping her gum. We can do loud.
B, Gordy, Milo, Ash continued. You guys are the rescue team. When the garrison moves to suppress the riot, you infiltrate the sewers. Nessa flooded the sub-basement. That's your way in. Get the girls. Get my Pokemon. And you? B asked. I go north, Ash said. To the tundra. I face Valerius.
Alone? Gordy scoffed. You don't have a team, kid. You have a Pikachu. I have friends, Ash said, looking at the gathered leaders, and I have a ride.
He looked at the back of the room. A massive figure was squeezing through the loading bay doors. A Dragonite. No. A Charizard. No. It was Hop. Ash's former rival, now Sonia's assistant, looked disheveled but determined. Beside him stood his Zacian, the hero of many battles. Lee is gone, Hop said, his voice shaking but firm. But the wolf remains. He wants to fight, Ash.
Ash smiled. It was a sharp, dangerous smile. Then let's go hunting. The Crown Tundra was a frozen wasteland of white silence. The air was thin enough to make breathing at shore.
Ash rode on the back of Zacian, the legendary wolf moving with effortless grace over the snowdrifts. Pikachu clung to Ash's shoulder, wearing a tiny pair of goggles Marnie had fashioned for him. Hop rode his Dubwool alongside them. There, Ash pointed. In the distance, the Freezington Temple was glowing. A pillar of violet light pierced the sky, swirling with the same corrupt energy they had seen at the tower. He's started, Hop said. The sky, it's turning black. It was the darkest day. Again. But focused. We need to break that circle, Ash said. Hop, take the perimeter guards. I'm going for the center. Don't die, Ash, Hop shouted, peeling off to engage a squad of Iron Crown soldiers emerging from the ruins. Ash urged Zacian forward. Behemoth blade. Clear the path. Zacian howled. The sword in its mouth glowed with brilliant blue light. It slashed the air, sending a shockwave that scattered the snow and the guards standing in their way. They breached the temple courtyard. Valerius was there. He was floating. Literally floating. He was mounted on a Spectrier, the ghost horse of the tundra. But on the horse's back sat Calyrex. And merged with Calyrex, connected by tubes of glowing energy and the rusted crown, was Valerius himself.
He looked monstrous. His veins glowed purple. His eyes were voids.
You persist, Valerius's voice boomed, echoing from everywhere at once. Like a cockroach.
Get off the horse, Ash shouted, sliding off Zacian. You look ridiculous.
I am divinity, Valerius roared. I am the Hollow King. I have united the king and the steed with the blood of the past. He raised a hand. Astral barrage. Hundreds of spectral lances rained down from the sky. Zacian, wide guard. Zacian barked, creating a shield of energy. The lances shattered against it, but the impact drove Ash to his knees. The power was overwhelming. He's tapping into the ley lines, Ash realized. He has infinite PP. Infinite energy. Pikachu. Thunderbolt. Pikachu fired. The lightning struck Valerius's shield and vanished. Absorbed. Your light feeds me, Valerius laughed. Shadow Rider Calyrex consumes all. The horse reared. It stomped the ground, sending a fissure of shadow energy racing toward Ash. Ash rolled. The ground where he had stood disintegrated into nothingness. I can't get close, Ash gritted his teeth. Zacian, can you speed blitz him? Zacian growled low. He is too fast. He sees the future. Calyrex's psychic power. Precognition. Ash was losing. He was dodging, weaving, but Valerius was playing with him. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the southern horizon. Hammerlock. Ash's earpiece crackled. Ash, it's B. Her voice was breathless, accompanied by the sound of crunching bone. We have the package. Nessa and Sonia are secure. We found your balls. Send them. Ash screamed. Transfer them. Now. The network is jammed. Sonia's voice cut in. I can't transfer to your digital storage. But, wait. I can overdrive the transfer system. I can send one physical ball via the emergency medical teleport. But the coordinates are shaky. Just do it. Ash yelled, diving behind a frozen pillar as another astral barrage turned the stone to dust. Sending. Incoming. A flash of red light appeared 50 feet in the air. A Pokeball materialized, falling through the snow. Ash sprinted. Valerius saw it. No. He fired a beam of psychic energy at the ball. Pikachu. Intercept. Pikachu leapt, throwing his body into the path of the beam. He took the hit. He was blasted backward, tumbling into the snow, unconscious. Pikachu. Ash didn't stop. He dove. He caught the ball. He rolled, coming up in a kneeling stance. He recognized the weight. The scuffed surface. Lucario. Let's finish this, Ash whispered. He didn't throw the ball. He held it to his chest. Lucario. Mega Evolve. He didn't have a keystone. He didn't have a Mega Ring. Those had been taken. But he had the bond. The ball glowed, not with the cold light of technology, but with the warm, pulsing blue of aura. It shattered in his hand. Lucario burst forth. But he was already changing. The aura poured from Ash into the Pokemon, fueling the transformation. Spikes grew. Red tips flared. The dreadlocks extended.
Mega Lucario stood on the ice. He roared, a sound that shook the snowflakes from the air.
Valerius paused. Impossible. You have no keystone. We don't need rocks, Ash said, his eyes glowing blue again, synchronizing with Lucario. We are the stone. Or a sphere. Massive. Lucario raised his hands. A sphere of blue energy formed. It grew. And grew. Until it was the size of a house. Fire. Lucario hurled the spirit bomb. Valerius sneered. Futile. He raised his hand to absorb it. Zacian. Behemoth blade. Cut the connection. It was a feint. While Valerius focused on the massive energy ball, Zacian had circled behind. The wolf leapt, the sword slashing not at Valerius, but at the tubes connecting him to Calyrex. Slash. The cables severed. The rusted crown was knocked askew. Valerius screamed as the psychic feedback loop snapped. The absorption shield flickered and died. The aura sphere hit him. The explosion was visible from Winden. A mushroom cloud of blue and purple light rising over the tundra. When the smoke cleared, the temple was a crater. Valerius lay in the snow, his suit shredded, the rusted crown lying broken beside him. He was breathing, but defeated. The Calyrex and Spectrier had separated, vanishing into the ether, freed from his control. Ash stood over him. He was swaying. The effort of the forced mega-evolution had drained him near death. Lucario had reverted and collapsed. Ash fell to his knees. His vision went black. Ash. He heard a voice. A roar of an engine. A Corbinite taxi landed hard. Nessa jumped out before it even stopped. Sonia followed. They ran to him. Nessa slid onto the ice, pulling Ash's head into her lap. He was freezing cold. Don't you dare, Nessa whispered fiercely, tears freezing on her cheeks. Don't you dare leave us now. Sonia was checking his pulse. It's weak. Aura depletion. He gave everything. Wake up, champion, Nessa ordered, her voice breaking. She kissed his forehead. A desperate, unroyal, human kiss. Ash's eyelids fluttered. He groaned. Loud. He muttered. You're loud. Nessa let out a sob that was half laugh. She buried her face in his neck. Sonia slumped beside them, holding Ash's hand. You did it. You crazy idiot. You won. Ash looked up at the sky. The dark clouds were breaking. The aurora borealis was shining through, green and pink and gold. We won, Ash whispered. He looked at Nessa, then at Sonia. Is it over? Nessa looked at the broken form of Valerius being secured by Hop and Piers. She looked at the horizon where the sun was beginning to rise. The war is over, Nessa said softly, stroking his hair. But the rain is just beginning. Ash closed his eyes, finally allowing himself to sleep. He was safe. Chapter 6 End. Chapter 7. The Eternal Champion. The weeks following the Battle of the Tundra were a blur of politics, reconstruction, and quiet moments that felt louder than the war itself. Hammerlock Castle was no longer a prison, it was a hive of activity. The High Council had been purged. Vane was in a cell, awaiting trial for treason. The Iron Crown had disbanded, its members scattering into the shadows or surrendering to the new regime. Ash Ketchum sat on the balcony of the champion's estate, watching the sun rise over Winden. He held a cup of tea, watching the steam curl into the crisp morning air. He was healed. Mostly. The scars on his back from the Grimsnarl were silvery lines now, a map of his endurance. The aura exhaustion had faded, leaving him sharper, more tuned into the world than before. But he was tired. Not body tired, soul tired. The door slid open behind him. Sonia stepped out. She wore a silk robe, her hair loose and messy, a rare sight for the public, who only saw the polished professor. She sat in the chair next to him, pulling her legs up. Thinking about running away. Ash smiled faintly. Thought about it. Paldia sounds nice this time of year. Warm. You can't go, Sonia said softly. The ink is dry. The triad is legal. You're the monarch, Ash.
I never wanted to be a king, Ash said, looking at the city below. I just wanted to be the best. Maybe that's why you're a good king, Sonia said. She reached out, taking his hand. Because you don't want the power. You just want the result.
Nessa joined them a moment later. She was dressed for a meeting. Sharp suit, perfect makeup, but she carried a plate of toast. She placed it on the table and sat on the arm of Ash's chair. Eat, she ordered. You have a press briefing in an hour. Then a meeting with the construction guild about the Hulbury seawall repairs. Then lunch with Opal, which I'm sure will be exhausting. Ash groaned. Can I send Pikachu? Pikachu is currently negotiating a treaty with the local Yamper population regarding territory disputes in the garden, Nessa said dryly. He's busy. Ash laughed. It felt good. What are we going to do? Ash asked, looking at both of them. Really? Nessa looked at him. Her hand rested on his shoulder, her thumb tracing the collar of his shirt. We rule, Nessa said. We change the laws. We make sure no one like Valerius or Rose can ever hijack this region again. We build a league that isn't about corporate sponsorship, but about strength and bond. And us? Ash asked. The contract. Sonia squeezed his hand. The contract was a piece of paper, Ash. It forced us into a room together. But it didn't force us to. Well, this. We're a team, Nessa said. A weird, dysfunctional, terrifyingly effective team. I don't want to break up the band. Ash looked at them. He saw the intelligence in Sonia's eyes, the fierce loyalty in Nessa's. He realized he wasn't just staying for duty. He was staying because he couldn't imagine waking up without them. Okay, Ash said. He took a piece of toast. We rule. The coronation ceremony, the real one, was held at noon. Winden Stadium was packed. But this time, it wasn't for a battle. It was for a declaration. Ash stood on the podium. He didn't wear the heavy, stifling cape of the old monarchs. He wore his trainer gear, a new jacket, custom made by designers in Lumio City, combining the Galar style with his classic look. To his right stood Sonia, in her lab coat, representing the future of science and history. To his left stood Nessa, in her gym uniform, representing the strength of the people. They stood as equals. Ash leaned into the microphone. The crowd hushed. People of Galar, Ash began. He didn't have a speech prepared. Vane's replacement had written one, but Ash had left it on his desk. We've had a rough year, Ash said. We lost heroes. We saw monsters. We almost lost our way. He looked at the camera. But we're still here. And we're not going back to the way things were. The old days of kings and secrets are done. I'm not your king. A murmur went through the crowd. I'm your champion, Ash said firmly. And a champion doesn't rule from a throne. He fights on the field. With you. He gestured to Sonia and Nessa. We are the triad. But we aren't here to tell you what to do. We're here to make sure you have the freedom to be whatever you want. Trainer, researcher, performer. The future is yours. He raised his fist. So let's have a great battle. The crowd erupted. It was a roar of genuine hope. Later that evening, the estate was quiet. Ash, Sonia, and Nessa were in the living room. The TV was off. The fire was crackling. Nessa was pouring wine. Sonia was reading a book on ancient mythology, looking for references to other dormant threats, just in case. Ash was on the floor, playing with Pikachu and Yamper. You know, Sonia said, closing her book. There is one part of the contract we haven't discussed. Ash looked up. Which part? The succession clause, Nessa said, handing Sonia a glass. She smirked.
Ash blushed, turning a bright shade of red.
Relax, champion, Nessa laughed, walking over to sit on the sofa behind him. She ran her fingers through his hair. We have plenty of time for that. For now, let's just focus on surviving the paperwork. I'd rather fight a legendary, Ash mumbled. Too bad, Sonia grinned. You're stuck with us. Ash leaned back against the sofa, closing his eyes. He felt the warmth of the fire, the presence of his partners, the hum of his Pokemon resting in the next room. He had traveled the world. He had seen every region. He had never stayed in one place for long. But as he looked at Nessa and Sonia, smiling at him with a mixture of love and challenge, he knew his journey had changed. It wasn't about the destination anymore. It was about who you stood with. Ash Ketchum was the champion of Galar. And for the first time in his life, he was exactly where he was meant to be. Hey, Ash said, opening his eyes. Yeah, Nessa asked. What do you say we go to the wild area tomorrow? No cameras. No guards. Just a picnic. Sonia smiled. I'll bring the sandwiches. Nessa swirled her wine. I'll bring the curry. I'll bring the battle, Ash said. Naturally, Nessa replied. They clinked their glasses. Outside, the wind howled over the Galar region, but inside the fortress, the storm had finally passed. Chapter 7 End.